Hi, this is Dan Eisenberg, and we're at our, believe it or not, our 10th episode of ScaleApp Podcasts. Just remember, everybody, and if you're a repeat listener, then you've heard this already before. I created ScaleApp Podcasts to deal with all the issues around how do you actually grow a venture? Not how do you start it, but how do you grow it? How do you build something of real value? Whether it's value to customers, of course, that's important. It's critical. Value to shareholders, perhaps, certainly yourself if you're a founder, and value perhaps to the world. So, and shareholders includes investors if you have them, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what ScaleApp Podcasts is about, and I'm really proud of the fact that we have all kinds of ventures. We've had already, just in our short life so far, we've had companies from Greece, from Turkey, from Germany, from the UK, from Israel, from India, and we'll have last but not least, the United States. But Silicon Valley has never, ever been the reference point for me for entrepreneurship. Not that I don't have a lot of respect for what happens there, but it's never been the reference point because I've seen entrepreneurship grow and flourish outside of Silicon Valley and without any relationship to it. For example, I was in Israel for 25 years and started a company and a venture fund and a bunch of other things there. So I'm really pleased to I'm back to the United States today, and we're actually here in Cambridge, Massachusetts. At least that's what I think, somewhere near Cambridge, Massachusetts, because MavenAGI is a company that is very much related to an organization I'm intimately involved in, that is E14. E14 is a fund that was founded as part of the MIT Media Lab ecosystem. We won't go into that now. That'll be another podcast, but they're one of the early investors in Maven. So I have with me, fortunately, very fortunately, Jonathan Corbin and Sami Shalabi, two of the co-founders of MavenAGI. And welcome, and thank you very much for joining.
We're excited to be here. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, yeah.
And did I get anything wrong so far?
You know what? My name sounds accurate. The name is Maven, and we're good to go.
By the way, Maven, I'll mention this because I'm fully bilingual in Hebrew and English. But Maven, it's part of the English language. It's Yiddish, etc. But it comes from the root word to understand, Mavin, and that has other roots in it because Hebrew is based on roots, the language, and it's a very fundamental word. Understanding is a fundamental aspect of the language, the Hebrew language. So it's interesting that in Hebrew we call this MavenAGI. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Just to get started. I want to hear a little bit about you as people, Jonathan and Sami. Just give a short sketch of yourself, things that aren't on your LinkedIn profile. Tell us a little bit about yourselves. Go ahead.
You want to start off, Sami?
Go ahead, start.
Sure. So Sami, been living in Massachusetts since 1993, came to the United States with just 2 suitcases to attend MIT and only left for vacations ever since.
From where?
From Jordan. I'm on Jordan.
Okay, so I've been there quite a few times.
Yes. And I came in an era pre-internet, so kind of a crazy story trying to get to the United States and applying to attend MIT.
I can imagine.
Most people didn't even know it in the Middle East didn't even know it existed.
So it was your biggest sort of shock or culture shock when you got to MIT as you were almost 20 years old or so?
Actually, the funniest experience, it was less about MIT, it was more about American culture, is when I went to British schools, is when people said, hello, how are you, what's up? They didn't expect an answer. So I would always respond and people would just be walking away, which was actually it took a little while to get used to the fact that people didn't expect an answer.
It's so funny because that's a joke in my side of the Middle East is, American says, let's have lunch sometime. You say, okay, when? And they sort of like say, I'll get back in touch with you. Yeah. How about you, Jonathan?
Yeah, I guess it's something about me that's not on my LinkedIn is that I actually grew up in Boston. And then as soon as I entered into my working career, I went and traveled around the world. I've been on 6 continents, still trying to get the 7th one knocked out.
Which one is the missing one? What's the missing continent?
Oh man, it is cold.
Antarctica, is that a continent?
Yeah, it's the hardest one for me to check off. And so I'm always jealous when I meet someone who tells me that they've been there. So that's one of the things that I love travel. I love seeing different places, different cultures, learning from people and the way they do things. I think it gives you a lot of insight in terms of how do you build a global company? How do you build a company that solves problems for not just U.S. citizens, but people around the world?
Yeah, and that's a very different perspective coming as someone who grew up in the United States, but also seeing the world from outside of the United States. Americans, we tend to see the U.S. as the center of the world. A lot of countries do, but we see it as the center of the world. And having a global or international perspective really isn't part of our nature typically. And so I think that's really going to, that I'm sure that influences your view of things.
Daniel, I think it's interesting, and you probably meet a lot of founders, you meet a lot of people throughout the different walks of life. And what you find is people tend to solve problems that are closest to them. The problems that they have, problems that the people around them have, without an understanding of, is this a problem that exists around the world, or is it a very small select group of people? And so when, we thought about starting a company, I think one of the things for us is that if we're going to solve a problem, it has to be something that matters, something that people care about. It has to be a real problem, not a niche problem, not for a small select group of people. It has to be something significant.
So I want to go there, and then when we go there, it's going to take some time. So before we do, tell us right now, sort of similar, what is MavenAGI from your perspective, and then Sami from yours as well. It's probably a little different, even though I'm sure you're looking at the same thing. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Daniel, I have to tell you a little bit of the origin story before I tell you what Maven is.
Let's go there.
And it matters because this is a problem that I understood deeply because I had it. That's why I built Maven, along with Sami and Eugene. And so my history was that I worked in a bunch of customer experience companies that were market leaders in their specific categories, companies like Adobe and Marketer and Sprinkler and Hubspot. And what I did is I had a team of people that were responsible for retaining and growing their customer base. And so as we continued to grow at places like Hubspot, where I had almost 1,000 people working for me, the CFO would come in the room, and Kate Bueger is amazing. One of the best CFOs I've ever met. I get to see her every now and then, and she's awesome. And she would say, Jonathan, you need to give me some money back out of your giant budget that you have. And you're like, how do I do that, Kate? Like, I had a team of people that's driving all of the costs within my organization, and they're doing amazing work. We've driven revenue retention to record levels at HubSpot for SMB and mid-market. It's world-breaking. It's like, well, you're going to figure it out. And so you go out and you're like, well, how do I go about solving this problem? And it becomes a really great forcing function for you to think deeply about what is the problem that I'm trying to solve. And the problem that we were trying to solve was nonlinear growth. How do we accomplish that? How do we create that? And so it forced you to go down to the very root of the problem, which is the first principles approach to customer experience. What are the core tenets of it? And what makes a great experience? And so what we realized is that the challenge that I was facing at HubSpot and many other leaders around the world are facing is that customer experience is costly. It's expensive. And the biggest cost is not investing in it. Because their customers leave, they're not happy, they don't get value out of your product, that impacts your LTV. So, man, this is a tough problem to solve. How do you go about doing that? We have to come up with a framework for it. What are the inputs to creating a great experience? Well, you have to be able to understand why the products exist. You have to personalize the experience. Sami built a multi-billion-dollar organization for people who are consuming music, Google, for billions of people on personalization. And then the last aspect is you need to be able to take actions in every act. And so we said, great, we're going to create this amazing platform that's going to be able to use AI agents to be able to deliver an incredible customer experience. And that's what we built. The tenets of it are the aspects of being able to personalize those interactions, be able to take action in every act, be able to have knowledge about the things that they're looking for. And so that's what we built.
So
at its core, we built AI agents and a platform that allows us to be able to deploy them at scale and answers a very high percentage of customers' interactions.
So I want to cycle back to that, but Sami, what sort of your take on this? I'm sure it's the same, but maybe there's some nuances. And tell us also, Jonathan, you're the CEO. Sami, what's your role in the company officially?
I'm the CTO at Maven.
Got it.
So the way I think about what we're building, in its simplest form, we're building AI agents for customer experience. And one of the reasons, and this is actually kind of grounded in how we think, is that we just had a revolution in terms of AI capabilities. I've been doing AI since the 90s. This is a significant step function in capabilities, which is going to fundamentally change how people use software, build software, how AI plays a role in how people engage with software. However, the thing I learned, I spent about 12 years at Google running Google News for many, many years. And the thing you learn at Google is twofold. Only do things that change the world, change industries. And then the other thing is nobody cares about the tech, solve a real problem. Okay. And therefore, when we kind of thought about Maven, it's let's solve this problem of customer experience because it's grounded in real challenges, real opportunities, and real pain. When we've canvassed organizations, when we've actually talked with a whole bunch of potential customers, asking them, what do you think of your customer experience? Everyone came back, did not say, oh, we want to make something cheap. We hate our customer experience. Everybody's really, really trying to build a world-class customer experience. And the challenge that they run into is that it is really, really hard. On average, a support agent typically logs into 6 to 9 different systems to figure out even what's going on. And people are expecting instant, high-quality answers with that setup. And so we've realized that AI is kind of at a place where it can consume large amounts of information, can understand who's calling at a very deep level, and once capable, can execute the requests of these users.
So when you say, Sami, just so I understand, sorry for interrupting, when you say the average support agent, you're talking about a person, a human being.
Yes,
when I call Verizon, you're saying, let's say, they'll access 6 different data sources in order to answer why they're billing me $1,500 for my 2 days in Panama.
Exactly. And when we've actually looked at B2B SaaS, the average support ticket cost every time you call or email, not just calling, email, it costs them $40 to $60 per interaction. Think about it, $40 to $60. Those are big numbers. And that's just in English. And once you start moving it into other languages, say, it almost doubles. We actually have one customer who's breaking the $1,000 mark per interaction. So this stuff is expensive. It's not because people are don't know what they're doing. They're trying, but it's just a really hard problem. And we realized that if you're going to have real impact, create real value, building AI agents that can help in that workflow can really kind of fundamentally change, fundamentally change customer experiences in terms of having more positive experiences, and also kind of improve the overall efficiency within the organization because you're able to kind of process these things at scale and with high quality and high value.
So let me try something out. I don't think there's a person in the United States, maybe not in the world, who would disagree with the statement that their customer experience is usually horrible. and somewhere between horrible and bad. And on the rare case, they'll say it was good. Let's say and more or less. So that's an easy one from the customer point of view. But I understand what you're saying about the company, the provider of the support, that they really sincerely would like to solve this problem for a lot of reasons. And I can just imagine, I've read your materials, and I can just imagine sort of as a customer support agent, getting a call and having this series of buddies on my shoulder, and I'm talking to you and you're asking questions. These buddies are there giving me the answers, good quality answers of what I should tell you. I wonder if you could you, just to give us a sense of what this feels like, could you guys try to role play, if you can, what this new customer experience is like from my point of view, from the customer's side? Well, how does it feel different?
Let's talk about typical workflow, what that would look like, and the way that most customers are deploying it. So I think what you're talking about, Daniel, is a co-pilot, something that's agent assistive. And I think that's amazing. But what we designed Maven to be able to do is to serve the different types of customers that there are today. And so when you look out at the different types of customers that most organizations are trying to serve, there's three types. The first type is the digital native. You want to be able to find the answer on your own. You don't want to have to go interact with the human in order to be able to accomplish that, right? And you'll see it on YouTube today. There's a whole bunch of, how do I do X videos? Because people are like, I don't want to have to go search on the website, try to find the answer. I'd rather find it on my own.
Fair.
We want to enable that at Adobe. We call those digital natives. You want to be able to enable digital natives to be able to find the information that they're looking for as fast as possible. They can go to search on the website. They can type in what they're looking for, and Maven gives them, here's what you need to know about the problem you're trying to solve. The second type of user is one where they want to be able to have access to information, but they need validation, because this thing is really important to get it right. Before I go launch a campaign on HubSpot and I cost my company a bunch of money sending out emails, well, I need to make sure that I've set it up correctly. And so I just need validation. And so we have a chat interface that allows those users to be able to interact there. The third type of user, this is like my mom, I think. She's like, I don't have to bother with any yet. I don't want to look on my own. I don't want to watch YouTube videos. I don't want to interact with anything. I want to go directly to a person. And for that person, we have a co-pilot that sits in their interface of whatever system they're using today. We tell them, here's the sentiment of the user that's coming in. Here's the historic interactions that they've had. Here's the correct answer to provide them in order for them to be able to solve the problem that they have. And so that's the typical workflow that we would have. So you start at the endpoint. Hey, if you're a digital native, if you need validation, start interacting with Maven right here. We'll answer your question instantly. And in fact, for most customers, we're in the 90th percentile in terms of the percentage of customers increased that Maven answers without a human. For those other 7% that they want to have the human interaction, amazing. We have the co-pilot, and we're able to see real significant improvement in terms of the quality of those answers. In fact, from people who are using our co-pilot alone, they're seeing a 30% improvement in agent performance, and they're able to give them an amazing CSAT. A lot of the organizations that are using this are seeing a 95% CSAT score for the Maven agents that are interacting with their customers.
So
that's kind of the typical work.
Customer satisfaction.
That's right, yeah. Customer satisfaction score.
So
that was really high.
So I understand that you make my experience as a customer, as an agent and as a customer.
That's right.
Much more effective, much more efficient.
And much more contextual, Daniel, meaning like if people are used to using one medium, so if they want to use email, we can handle those. If they want to use SMS, we can do those. If they want to use WhatsApp, we got one of those. If they're Want to use search? We got one of those. Every imaginable modality, because that's what drives adoption. People want to use the mediums they will feel comfortable with.
Yep.
And we've created agents that operate in all the imaginable modalities, whether it's voice, text. I mean, you just dream it, we can do it.
Imagine you're old enough to remember the Burger King answer to McDonald's was, have it your way. Have it the way you want the hamburger. But I can also imagine how easy it would be to get this wrong. I mean, it sounds like a dream. You've got all this, someone else, these automated agents are doing all the hard work, analyzing all the information, getting all the context, generating all the rules, making all the smart judgment calls. And it ends up just not feeling right. Like today, at least if you don't really know how to use it and use it the wrong way, a lot of AI, it just doesn't feel right all the time. So, talk about that. How do you get it so that it does really give you that customer experience?
So I think. Go ahead, Jonathan. I think, I'll jump in. I'm sure Stanley will be able to refine whatever I say. But I think the first component is that when you think about today's customer journey, Daniel, especially from a go-to-market perspective, you'll go out and you'll interact with marketing collateral. You'll talk to a salesperson who has no knowledge of the market collateral you're interacting with. You might convert to becoming a customer, and then they hand it over to somebody else who doesn't know why you bought it. And then you call them for support, and they don't know who you are. And it's unpersonalized. There's no contextualization. There's no understanding of what you're trying to achieve and why you. And so when we look at the challenge today, we've been talking a lot about the customer support challenge, but at its core, the customer journey encompasses that entire aspect of each of those customer interactions. And so where we see Maven being deployed is as a brain that is across each of those different touch points that occur throughout the customer journey. That's where we're seeing real traction and real value creation for our end users, where, to your point, it's easy to get it wrong. And a lot of companies do, because you have the information for when you're interacting with your marketing organization stored in Marketo, and your sales team is using Salesforce or HubSpot, and your marketing and your CS team is using Gainsight, and your support team is using Zendesk, and they're all storing pertinent information, the interaction you're having in those silos of data. And neither of them are interacting with each other. And you're like, man, it's like every time I talk to somebody, I have to reintroduce myself on the problem I'm trying to solve, and why is it so difficult? We're trying to break down that silo that exists across those interactions.
So
how do we create an AI agent that has your tone of voice? Some of the companies we're working with, they actually have a 60-page manual they give the new AI agents when they start. Hey, remember these 60 pages? This is the experience you should deliver to our end users. Use 4 emojis, but never 5. Never pause. Do all these things. And of course, for the average human support agent, it's impossible to memorize 60 pages of instructions. And so AI is absolutely producing a better experience. And we as humans, we're not supposed to be able to memorize 60 pages of stuff. Keep that in mind for every phone call that you have. No, we're actually delivering a better experience. So it's more in line with the brand and with their outline.
So you mentioned the different touch points and the entire customer experience, which is not just the actual support call, but there are other interactions as well. And I read in some of your material the mention of upsell and cross-sell. Could you say something about that? And the reason I ask is the different points of value creation for your customers. Some of it, of course, is in just improving customer support. But why improve customer support? Because you want to upsell, cross-sell, or at least retain your customers. So talk about how Maven influences that.
So a couple of things around the overall interaction. So when you actually look at a customer journey, and if you actually look, for example, support experiences, people are coming because they're not getting value out of the product and they're running into a problem. Usually when that happens, it's they're trying to solve a human problem, not this button doesn't work, I can't reset my password. They're actually trying to solve a human problem. And typically, if you can understand the human problem that they're trying to solve for, this is the point by which it's less about upsell, it's helping them get more value to solve the problem. So for example, if I think you used the example, Daniel, you didn't want to call Verizon because you didn't want to get this insane bill.
If I got the insane bill.
Yes, because you got the insane bill, you called in, you're angry. Imagine if you're in a state where you're using your Verizon phone and you're getting close to your data limit, and it proactively told you, hey, you're about to get close to your data limit, and if you go over, you're going to get charged. This is probably a good time to upgrade so that you are not charged. So it turned into what would have been a very negative experience because you got a big bill, you're unhappy, you want to flip a table, to an experience where you're now getting more, you're realizing that you're getting to a point where you're getting more value and you need to upgrade. And so when we think about upsell, creating more customer delight, is what are the magic moments? What are the moments by which people are getting more value, correlating them with each other so that you're pretty much solving not just the reactive problem, but proactively getting into a place where you're presenting them with a solution to their human problem at the right time where they're in the headspace where it makes most sense.
I think for a lot of, for many years, right, we've split the go-to-market functions into great, your sales, your marketing, we siloed them based on the training and based on the knowledge that they had access to. When we look at the future, Daniel, we see a very different world. We see AI agents playing a very large role in terms of customer interactions. And we see it being split into proactive and reactive customer interactions, where you consolidate all the customer interactions into a single team, into a single department, with the objective to be to deliver delightful customer experiences that are personalized for each user. And that's the dream that people have been trying to work towards for a very long time, right? That's why you've had, these data lakes that you would create, and that's why you created these journey orchestrators and stuff like that. But they never really got you quite where you needed to be. And so the view that we have of the world is the technology that we're creating is fundamentally going to change the way that people interact with their prospects and customers in a much more delightful and much more personalized way.
The core of that is the support ticket, or is that sort of like a beachhead?
When you think about what do you need in order to be able to respond to a customer support inquiry? Well, you need knowledge. How do products work? Why do they exist? How do you create value? The second thing you need is personalized information. You need access to historic interactions. Why did you reach out to this sales team? Why did you make that purchase? What was on your last billing statement? What was the last deposit that you made? So you need personalized information. You need context. And the last thing you need is access to be able to take actions in systems on your behalf. When you have those three aspects, you can go a lot further beyond just customer support. I know everything about every interaction you've ever had. I know everything about the products that you've purchased. I can help you to create more value from them. I can take actions to create that value for you. And so that's one of the reasons why we love the support space. We think it's an amazing point of entry into the enterprise because it allows us to help customers going far beyond just a singular customer interaction.
So it's a beachhead, so to speak. And now it's not the end point; it's their entry point. Let me switch gears just a little bit and talk about you and your customers. So where do you stand in terms of your sales and customer attraction? I know you do have some big customers, and it's unclear whether these are the big test customers that are going to validate the market for you and establish or these are just examples of thousands of customers that you already have. Where do you stand, and where are you taking your own medicine?
We have about 50 customers today, Daniel, and what's interesting for us is our very first customers were paying customers. They're paying us, 6-figure contracts.
I hope so.
And and I think they're excited about the opportunity that we had in order to help them evolve their customer experience, and we're creating real cost savings for them. And so I think we've been fairly public about some of the impact that we're having with folks like TripAdvisor, where they came on record and said, hey, they're autonomously answering over 93% of customer interactions, and we continue to be able to do that customer after customer. And it's amazing to be able to, kind of cycle back to Sami's point about solving real world problems, to see that we are solving real problems, that we're improving customer experience. A couple of those metrics is, what's the percentage of customer interactions that Maven can assist with? And then the other is, like, how do customers think about us? What's that CSAT score? What is the benchmark for them in terms of whether we did a good job or not? At the end of the day, it's all about making sure that your customers feel the love that you have for them.
So where do things go from here? How are you going to scale up to wherever you can scale up, whatever that is, billions of dollars of revenues? How do you get from here to there, wherever there is?
I think there for us is being able to serve millions and millions of customers and deliver a delightful experience for them. At the end of the day, the customer is the core of the reason why we built Maven, and that's our metric for success. And so, how do we go from there? Well, we're hiring in a number of different areas. Of course, on the engineering side, Sami has some mind-bending, paradigm-shifting plans for things he wants to build. And then on the go-to-market side, we're continuing to evolve the way that we engage with prospects and customers, and trying to your point, take our own medicine.
And does it? I mean, hand on your heart, does it work?
It works, yeah.
I wouldn't expect a different answer, because if it didn't work, you'd fix it.
Yes.
So that it did.
Sami doesn't let me near the base code, so everyone should be happy about that.
So you both are experienced entrepreneurs. You're seasoned executives. You know technology in and out. You, as far as I can tell, you're not 20-year-olds. I won't try to push my ability to see, but I would say even not 30-year-olds. And so let's say that you ran into your younger self 10 years ago, but it's today, knowing what you know now, and your younger self was saying, I want to build something that has a huge impact and will make a lot of money and create a lot of good in the world. What are the lessons you've learned that you'd tell your younger self? Sami, let's start with you. I know it's cold calling and it's a hard question to answer, but give it a shot.
It's a good question. I mean, I'll say a couple of things that I would tell my younger self. And those are kind of things I learned along the way. That I feel are now kind of internal to how I think and build. One is, nobody cares about the tech. Solve a real problem. My younger self cared much more about the tech than the human problem. So the first thing is to solve a real problem in the world. Nobody cares about the tech. The tech is important. It's important for differentiation. It's important for all sorts of things. But you got to solve a real problem in the world is probably one of the biggest things. The second thing I would say is, and this is actually something that was, I think we were joking about this at the beginning, what were things you didn't expect when I came to the United States? I think one of the things that really surprised me when I came to the United States, and especially when I got into the workforce, was more seasoned folks would seek you out and want to mentor you.
Whoa.
Look for a mentor. That was actually one of the most surprising things. I did not actively seek it. It kind of happened, but it was something that was very unique to the business environment in the United States. And I would say I figured that out much later, that successful people actively like to help. This is actually core to a big part of the DNA in the business culture, especially in entrepreneurship.
I think, yeah.
And I always love, I mean, I've been fortunate. I've seen a lot of things, and I always love to share my experiences. But I didn't realize that was a thing in the world.
Interesting. So you're saying feel more open or be more fluid in approaching experienced people to say, give me a few minutes of your time.
Yes, that was actually I figured that out a little later, and I do that personally, selflessly, but I would say figure that out sooner than later.
A good one. How about you, Jonathan?
I think there's the tangent to the sort of things that Sami was talking about. For me, it was I knew that I wanted to start a company, and I knew that I wanted to become a better leader. And so at every company that I've been at, there have been leaders who I've had the opportunity to learn from, whether it's, Stephen Frieder and Chris Kohler at Adobe, or, Yami and Brian and Dharmesh at HubSpot, or, Raju Thomas at Sprinkler. At every single one of those stops, I've had the opportunity to sit there and chat with folks who built these amazing companies and learn from them. What worked well for you? How did you go about approaching this? And, I'd be in the office late and bugging Brian Howe again. Hey, what was the early days of HubSpot like? What did you guys do differently? How did you approach this? And I'm sure he was like, dude, I'm at the office late, not because I want to talk to you, but I would bug him. And I really appreciate the effort that each of them put into responding to my inquiries. And, I was one-on-ones with Yami. I said, Yami, what's your secret? What's the thing that you do really well? How do you drive that home? And I would bug people, like, what are their superpowers? How do I learn from them? And I think, to Sami's point, people are always willing to share their experience. And for me, that's the most valuable aspect that you can take away from every job that you have. What do you learn from the interactions that you had with folks and the time that you spent there? And so I think being purposeful about the things that you want to learn. How do you become better? How do you become good? How do you become a great leader? How do you become a great builder? Those are the things that I was constantly looking to learn from, and I'm still learning today.
Great. Well, I think they've taught you well, and of course you bring a lot to the table too. So we're going to keep this short. I'm sure we could have another conversation, and hopefully maybe in a year we'll meet again and talk about the journey of the next year. I'm sure it's going to be different from the first one, or the last one, I should say. So I want to thank Jonathan Corbin and Sami Shalabi, two of the co-founders of MavenAGI, which is revolutionizing the world of interaction with customers. Let's put it that way. I don't know if that's how you would put it, but that's my takeaway. And I want to just remind everyone that this is the 10th episode of ScaleApp Podcasts. You can find ScaleApp Podcasts on all the platforms: Apple, YouTube, LinkedIn, Spotify, Buzzsprout, and maybe a few others that I don't remember. And if you like it, then like it. And this is just to help you all learn how to grow better, faster, and scale up the value that you create for the world, for your customers, for yourselves. So with that, I'll sign off and thank Sami and Jonathan again for spending your extremely valuable time with me.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you having us. It's always fun. Thank you.